Mr. Surya Prakash Mohapatra, Global Head Talent Transformation at Wipro Digital Operations. He has 25 years of experience in various leadership roles in several leading IT and ITES organizations. His articles have been published in various journals and magazines, and the topic in which he will be sharing his knowledge is investing in your employees for long-term business success. Over to you, Mr. Prakash.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you are in right now. And thank you for this opportunity for me to be part of this session today. And as Ananya said, I currently lead the talent transformation function and learning and development function in Wipro Digital Operations and Platforms. So my forte is learning and development. And naturally, this is an area which is of interest to me, investing in employees. And so we're going to talk about this. This is not a new subject, and many of you being business owners would know how important it is to have a productive employee. When we talk about business success, business outcomes, business results, to a great extent, it depends on whether our employees are productive or not productive. I'm just quoting some research finding, which is very interesting. It says a motivated employee is 12 times more productive than normal employee. So an employee is motivated, then that person is 12 times more productive than a normal employee. So, so if we invest in an employee, and if the employee becomes happy, motivated, satisfied, thereby becomes productive, it can be immensely beneficial to the organization. A lot of research has proved that. And a lot of research findings in recent times very clearly tell us that if our employees are productive, then we get better TSR value, total stakeholder value, better ROI on our employee investment, better customer satisfaction, better customer retention, better employee retention. So these are some of the advantages of employee productivity. It's not new to you. We're familiar with this, but just a reinforcement. But disadvantages of low employee productivity means frequent customer escalations. We may have employees, but if they're not productive, then you would have to deal with customer escalations. Rework. The cost of rework is going to be high. You'll probably have customer attrition. You could have loss of revenue and profits, employee attrition. But this one is interesting because if the employee productivity is low, you probably would lose your high potential employees, your performing employees. And your employees who are not performing would probably continue to stay on because they would believe that they can get away with low productivity. So you would continue to have people that you don't want to have, and you will lose people that you want to have. Because the performing employees would always feel that there is no value for meritocracy. So low productivity, low employee productivity from a business perspective definitely is not profitable for the organization. It's not going to lead long-term business success. So now the question is, what essentially employee productivity is all about? Sometimes we think talented employees means high productivity, but that may not be the case all the time. And we have seen in organizations today that talent alone is not enough. So ability or competence or skills alone is not enough. For productivity, you need to meet 3 criteria: ability, willingness, and conditions. Ability is, of course, competence. It is talent. It is the knowledge and skills of the individual, of your employees. Willingness is their desire to translate their ability into productivity, into performance, into outcomes. If that willingness is not there, talent alone is not going to be enough. Now, conditions. What do you mean by conditions? Conditions, an employee may be able, employee may be willing, but the conditions in the organizations might be prohibitive. They might be preventing the employee from giving his or her best. And we will talk more about conditions. Conditions could be the environment, the external environment, the internal environment, the tools and platforms. They may be very complex and a whole lot of things. The culture of the organization, all of that contribute to the environment or the conditions in which an employee operates, which could impact his or her productivity. So ability, willingness, and conditions are the three factors that contribute to employee productivity. So when we talk about ability, it's a summation of knowledge, both domain and behavioral skills, soft skills, and contextual knowledge. Contextual knowledge is the knowledge about, it's not just about the qualification and the domain and soft skills. It's also understanding of your business environment, understanding of the customer nuances. Sometimes you might get the best talent from the best B school or the best engineering college, you might get somebody with the best experience, but that person may lack the contextual knowledge of your business, of your customers. So it is important to retain such employees and make them productive, because if you lose them, bringing another person up to speed or bringing a new person, up the learning curve is going to take a lot of time. Willingness is nothing but is a summation of motivation. A person should be motivated to work. He may be talented, but he may not be motivated. One person may have the ability or talent, but may have wrong habits, may be lazy, may not be disciplined, and so on. Is the beliefs and values which might determine the willingness of the person, and it could be alignment or misalignment with the vision of the stakeholder, of the founders, of the leadership, a vision of the leaders of the organization. Now, conditions. Conditions is again, it has a lot of flavors. It probably the culture of the organization determines the conditions that employee is going to operate in. Sometimes the culture could be very toxic. There could be a lot of organizational politics and whole lot of other challenges. It could be, and the organization structure, it could be very bureaucratic. Employees may not be empowered. And some of these things could impact the employee morale, and employee may not be productive. The tools and platforms, do you have the right technology for people? Is it driving ease of work, or people are struggling to do their basic work while trying to do their best for the organization? Then, of course, the policies and procedures could be very complex, bureaucratic, may not be very employee friendly, and that could lead to that may not provide the right environment for employees to become successful. I read, and there's some research findings which says 32% of workers say that they have left an employer during the pandemic whose tech was a barrier to their ability to do good work. They wanted to do their best for the customer, but their technology, the platforms that they're using were not the best. And they were very complex, not very user-friendly, and they were struggling. I also read a recent research finding which says 3 out of 4 employees are today a millennial. They're millennials. So which means 75% of the workforce are going to be millennials, or they already are millennials. And then do we have the right conditions? Because millennials have a different work style. Their likes and dislikes are very different. Their preferences are very different from other generation of employees. So do we have the right conditions which would attract millennials? There is a recent survey which says, again, 80% of millennials would leave an organization if the organization does not provide them access to social media. Something very interesting. If a company doesn't give access to social media, there are many organizations which restrict access to social media for employees because of obvious reasons, maybe compliance, or may they feel that employees would be less productive, their attention would be divided between work and then other social interests, etc. Whatever be the reason, 80% of millennials would leave an organization if their organization does not provide access to social media. Now, let's talk about investing in employees. If you are talking about three criteria for employee productivity, which translates into profits for organization, growth for an organization, then our investment should be in these three different areas. Our investment should be in building employability, competence, skills, which means we need to provide training, coaching, mentoring, etc. We need to invest in employees so that they remain motivated and they give their best. They are willing to give their best. So, which means we need to make sure that we drive motivation, we provide career growth opportunities, progression, competitive pay, stock options, recognition, reward and recognition, and so on. Again, some research findings, which says 37% of employees feel job recognition boosts their productivity. And so it's a human hankering. Every human being has a craving for reward and recognition, appreciation. And sometimes we just ignore that, thinking that it's going to cost money. Now, the third investment needs to be in the areas which would improve the conditions in which employees operate. Flexibility. Are we providing flexibility? Work from home, does our work policies encourage gig workers to come and work? Do we support moonlighting? And various other, do we recruit contract employees, part-time employees? Do our policies allow that? Do our policies allow enough flexibility to our employees? Culture. Do you have the right culture? Is it toxic? Is it congenial? Does it create a homely environment? Do the employees feel that that the workplace is an extension of their family? The colleagues are their extended family members. Sometimes they don't cost money, but if you create the right culture, employees would continue to give their best and become more productive. Ease of work, platforms and tools. Are we investing in the right platforms and tools? Have we really looked at the policies and procedures, our workplace, the infrastructure? We may not have the best world-class imported furniture, but the question is, but is the workplace? My apologies. Do you have the right workplace? Is it, does it provide a very, an infrastructure, a physical setting where people can work comfortably without feeling suffocated? They feel comfortable. And then, it meets all other criteria of employee health and other conditions. So investing in ability, willingness, and conditions are the important elements of investing in the employee. Now, the important question is, many of you would say, we understand this. We need to invest in our employees. But I'm a startup, or I'm a small or medium-sized enterprise. So investing in employee costs money. How can I do that? I have other priorities. I have to spend money on customer acquisition, marketing, branding, business development, and so many other areas. Oftentimes, this one gets deprioritized. And which I completely understand and agree with that. That it's for a startup, for a small, medium-sized organization, you really have to do the balancing act and figure out, where you put your money. But now the big question, the $1 million question is, if we do not invest in our employees, and if you take shortcuts, and if we make some short-term compromises, hoping that we will save cost, are we prepared to have long-term repercussions? And all the research findings we talked about employee motivation, productivity, willingness to work, all of them tell us that how important it is to have productive employees. And productive employees means competent employees, willing employees, and employees operating in the right conditions. So the choice is whether we should invest in our employee development, or we should be prepared for having mediocre talent in our organization and have repercussions. Now, the question is, when a medium-sized organization, a small organization, I remember I was in a HR conference in Amsterdam a few years ago. I was working for a large multinational, US-based multinational at that point in time, and I was making a presentation on L&D, and I talked about some great technologies that my company was using to bring a difference to our employees. After my presentation, one lady from one European company stood up and then said, "Surya, it's a great presentation. Your organization is doing great stuff, but I come from a small company. I was working for Hewlett Packard at the time." He said, "I am not HP. I'm a small organization. I don't have the money to invest in this learning technologies, the platforms, the tools that you're talking about." I said, I think I forgot the name of the lady, but I said, when we talk about an end goal, or when we talk about a solution, our solution should not drive our need. It is our need that should drive our solution. It is our need that should drive our goal, not the other way around. Sorry, it's our need that should drive the platform or the tool or the solution that we are going to use. There's a very common anecdote. You might have heard this before. I think when I don't know if it is a fact or just a interesting story with a strong message. When the Americans went to the space, they figured out their pen is not writing because in low pressure, the ink was getting frozen. So they invested, put in a few millions of dollars to invent a pen which would write in the space. And they succeeded because they are very technologically advanced nation. And you know what the Russians did? They used a pencil. So sometimes we are driven by a tool or a technology or a platform, and we get overwhelmed by the size, the complexity, the money, the cost, etc. But sometimes the solution can be a simple solution. A solution or a tool needs to be driven by the need that we have. If the need is to write in the space, a pencil can do the job if the ink of the pen gets frozen. So I have few recommendations for you. Today, when you talk about employee development, and I know I'm now talking about the ability angle. Today, training doesn't cost a lot of money. We have the Udemys and Coursera's and the Swams and edX of this world. You have YouTube. You have thousands of articles, blogs, artifacts. Today, we're talking about AI, chat GPT. There's so many things which are available, which you can leverage to help your employees build new skills. And some of these courses offered by these Udemy and Coursera platforms, they're available at a very, very nominal cost. The investment is not going to be huge as it used to be in the past to learn technologies or new business models and management and leadership skills. It's now easily available. What's important is for you to have a person who can curate the right program, which is available in the internet, in the World Wide Web, which is available through different platforms. Now, the best of universities have realized that the future is in MOOCs. So now almost every reputed university has a MOOC program. MOOC is nothing but a massive online open course platform, open curriculum platform. So you need to curate programs rather than create. You don't have to create. You don't have to hire a partner vendor to deliver. For some programs, you may have to, if it's a very niche program and is not available. But there are many programs which are available today at very low cost. What are your leaders doing? What are the CXO leaders doing in your organization? They're only spending time with customers, or are they spending time with their people? Leaders can be teachers. You don't have to hire professional leadership trainers from the best of leadership training providers. Use your leaders as teachers because your leaders have the experience. They understand the business environment. They have gone through the challenges themselves. They're the best people to deliver leadership training to their people, to your employees. You don't have to hire professional coaches for your people, employees. Your managers need to be taught and trained to become coaches for their employees. They're the best people who can coach their employees. Social learning. Encourage peer-to-peer learning in the organization. The buddy mode learning is extremely popular. When a new person joins your organization, have an experienced person buddy up with that guy who can spend time with the new guy, explaining to him the processes and the practices and then policies, providing him job-specific training, etc., etc. The buddy can be the go-to person for a new employee. Social learning, cross-skilling. You might be operating as a small organization. You cannot afford to have specialists for every role, but your people can be cross-skilled to pick up, to kind of step in for each other. If they're cross-skilled on each other's responsibilities, if one person is absent today, large organizations have the advantage of scale and size, but you do not have the advantage. It is to your advantage. You should cross-skill your people so that you get the best outcome from the people. And people also feel motivated because this is not just about training, it is also about willingness and conditions. People also feel motivated that they have an opportunity to grow. This is an organization where they're picking up new skills. They can expand their horizon. They can grow in an organization by picking up more skills. So that's important. Now, the next question, can we invite industry leaders? I mean, if you're well connected in the industry, invite your industry leaders to talk about their experiences, their journey, their successes, their failures, and so on. So the reason why I'm sharing so many examples, the idea is for me to drive home the point that development, investment in employee is not always about cost. It doesn't cost a lot of money. What is required is the intent. If you have the right intent, you can develop your employees, creating a very homely environment, a home-like environment. If it's a small organization with 20, 30, 50 odd people, can people have lunch together? Can you have daily huddles together? Can you create an environment where people feel that this workplace is an extended family? So when they wake up in the morning, they're motivated to wake up, get ready, and come to the workplace because that's where they feel that they have enough, enough connections, bonding with their colleagues, with their manager, and so on. When it comes to money, paying the salary, of course, salaries need to be competitive today, because money is an important factor. That's a very important driver. Now, the question is, how do you kind of play it out? How much can be hard cash that you give them? How much can be stock options? How much can be other perks, etc., and so on. There is one company which provides a medium-sized company which reimburses external certifications taken up by employees. But it has a condition. The condition is we will reimburse it only when you successfully complete the course. So you enroll, pay money upfront. We will give you a salary advance if you don't have money to pay up. But when you complete the course successfully, we'll reimburse. So this will tie the employee with an organization till the employee completes the course. And this will also brings in seriousness into the program that the employee is enrolling for. Sometimes if the company is paying upfront, employee feels, well, it's not my money, so I haven't paid. But if you put this condition, if you tie it to a condition that I will reimburse it 100%, only when you successfully complete it. So that will ensure that the employee puts in his or her best effort in completing that course. And you can, link any certification and bring in a win-win scenario. You would sponsor a certification program which is going to be beneficial to the employee from a career growth perspective, and also going to be beneficial to the organization, because you believe that if he or she completes that certification, he or she is going to be able to add more value to the organization. It can be a win-win scenario, both for the employee and for the employer. Now, before I end, my intent was to speak for about 25 odd minutes and then give you back about a few minutes for any questions. So I will just close just with a picture about the current scenario, which is the reality, and why HR professionals like me or L&D professionals like me have a hard time today. If you look at an employee, if the employee productivity is X, and if an organization is hiring 100 employees, the biggest challenge today for the employer is my productivity going to be 100x if I hire 100 people? That's not the case today. And most of the organizations are grappling with that, because there are active resignations, there are passive resignations, there is quiet quitting. There are people who are sitting on the fence. There are people who are perennially dissatisfied and demotivated. And for the employer, for the leaders, and for HR professionals, it is a hard time to figure out how to get 100x. But if you create the right culture, build the competencies and skills, and provide the right conditions, we can actually turn this 100x into 1000x if we do all of this right. With this, I would stop, and I would pause for a few minutes if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Surya. I would like to ask you questions. My first question is, how the gig economy is impacting the corporate workplace?
It is impacting in a big way. And that's the reality. Future is going to have gig workers in organizations. What does it mean? It means that people are the same person working for multiple organizations. And it also means that, you have part-timers who come and work for 4 hours and then they pursue their hobbies, passion, etc., and the rest of the day. Now, some countries in the world are ready for that. For example, US, some countries in Europe allow dual employment. India is not ready for that. Today, India doesn't allow dual employment. And that is the biggest barrier when it comes to gig workers. Today, most employers in India still hire full-time workers. Of course, they sometimes outsource work and they hire contract employees, etc. But from an organization point of view, even if they hire a contractor, I'm talking about formal structured organizations, even if you hire contract employee, you expect that person to be dedicated to the organization. So I think it is going to impact whether organizations are ready or not ready. This is the future. This is how the workforce is moving. Another interesting change which is happening today, Ananya, and then which is linked to gig workers is the concept of gig workers. See, in our times, when we started our education, our career was a linear thing. It was education, employment, retirement. Today, a career is not linear. It can be education, work, sabbatical, and a PhD for a couple of years or 3 or 4 years, work again, then take a break for 2 years, go on a world tour, come back and be a consultant and be a freelancer. So it is no longer education, employment, retirement, which used to be the case earlier. It is very different. And in the gig economy, this is the new reality. And organizations need to be ready for that. If they're ready, it is fantastic. If they're not ready, they really have to start thinking about it.
Thank you. My next question is, what is gig economy in India and its impact on startups?
I think gig economy in India is not very mature at this stage, but we have started seeing that. For example, the Swiggies and then the Zomatos of this world, they have started recruiting gig workers. The other day when I had ordered pizza, and after about 25-30 minutes, there was a knock at the door, and then opened the door. I saw a young man in the age of probably 22, 23 years old, who was holding the pizza box in his hand. And then when I went inside to get the change, and then pay him, and then I started a conversation with him. And then this guy told me that he is a engineering student, but he dropped out of his engineering in his second year. And he was pursuing his engineering in mechanical. He was doing his mechanical engineering. In the second year, he dropped out. I said, why did you do this? I mean, it's a professional program. Why did you drop out? He said, I'm studying engineering in a tier 3 college in South India. And what job I will get after completing my, I will struggle to get a job. I will find it difficult to even make 20,000 rupees a month. But with my job today, I make about 35,000 every month, and I still have a lot of flexibility. I don't have to work 9 to 5 and so on. So this is the new reality, whether organizations are ready or not, but the gig workers are going to be the new reality. Startups have a huge opportunity. I think they can create a shared workspace where they can create opportunities for gig workers who can work with them on a part-time basis, on a contract basis, as freelancers, on a particular assignment. Startups really don't have to recruit full-time employees for every role they have. They actually can create these opportunities, and and then and they can look at what are those shared places, and then today the workplace being hybrid. I think this is going to be even easier, because your gig worker can be sitting in any part of the world or any part of the country who can work for you. So I see it's a huge opportunity for startups, and it's going to be win-win for the workforce and the employers.
Thank you, Mr. Mohapatra, for your time. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.